mentioned in a previous video when I did the transmission fluid and filter update that I was going to run through the INPA diagnostic tool and how I set that up. And before I go on, I just want to say that I'm not by any stretch an expert in this. I'm not claiming to know everything about INPA. In fact, I'm just starting to play with it. I had a bit of a go with the old 540i I used to have in clearing codes and so on. So this is the second time that I'm basically using it for the E46. So what I've got a 2000 model E46 318i. It does not have the round connector in the front. It only has the flat pin connector. This is a Euro spec. And so what I've got here is the version 5. And you can see I've got there is F3 E46. And what I'm using is a cable that I bought from eBay. And look, there's plenty of information on the net on how to download and install this program. I'm not going to cover that. I just wanted to show you how to connect to it and so on. So as you can see, I've got it started. I don't have the ignition on. And flat pin cable. And up the top here is the connector. So underneath the driver's footwell, right hand drive obviously. So now I'm just going to try to connect that up there, having a look at making sure I've got it in the right way. There we go. So it connects up, the little light comes on. I've got the cable connected as I just said. It's on the USB port. And again, there is information online on how to configure that so that it treats that as a COM port. This is running XP, but I won't get into any more of that. So let's just see here that firstly you've got the battery and ignition off, and that's correct because I don't have that on there. So I'm going to turn the ignition on. I'm going to turn it on to the second position. I just go straight to the second position. And it shows both the battery and the ignition on. So I'm just going to go and press F3 now to select the E46. And here I've got a range of options: engine, transmission, chassis, body and communication system. So when I did the oil and filter change on the transmission, I selected transmission and then I selected that read status, F5. And then I went to F7, analog values. And down here, I've got the gearbox temperature, which is currently sitting at 15 degrees Celsius. So that's how I managed to monitor the engine temperature when I was doing the fuel process of the transmission, making sure that it wasn't going to go over 50 degrees Celsius, and which it wasn't. It was around 40 degrees when it became filled and started dripping out. F3 again. Chassis, you've got other options. Body. Okay. Communications. So with the body, oops. Go to instrument cluster. Alright, so in order to get this interface cable working for my E46, I've been reading online that you basically have to connect pin 7 and 8 together. So this is going to be a quick video on how I'm doing that. Obviously things can change, people can do things differently, etc, etc, but this is how I'm doing it. So the first thing to do is pull the cases apart and then have a look for pins 7 and 8, which if you look inside here, I don't think you'll be able to see it, but it actually gives you the pin numbers. So pins 7 and 8 looks like the last two there. So the first thing I need to do is start pulling this apart. that out, and there we have it. So again, I'm trying to locate 7 and 8, and 7 and 8 are those two there on the top, which means that they correspond to those 2 pins there. Okay, so I've got the soldering iron nice and hot, and what I'm attempting to do here is to bridge those 2 there, like so. So I'm going to have to first try to solder the pin 7, and then after that join the pin 8. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, so I'll try my best. And obviously we need to get as little heat as possible on the terminals. Ah, damn it. Alright, so first month of the day, I actually touched the soldering iron on the wires here. So pop the wire out so you don't touch any of that. I'll have to dress that up later. And the second option here now for me is to firstly try to cut the solder enough to give it space, and then see if I can move that around enough without popping the other one off, because the other one's just very well, this is not my I don't solder that often, in fact hardly, so some of you might be thinking it's a bit of a hack job and looks crappy, but at the end of the day, as long as it's in there, and it looks like it is, just making sure that it's not going to just pop out, and it looks pretty well soldered there. Right, so see if I can get a close-up for you. So hopefully that'll now allow me to use the rest of the menu options in INPA, because I wasn't able to get the body / instrument cluster menu, which is where I want to be able to go in there and clear service codes and all that kind of stuff. So I'm hoping that this will do the job. So I can now plug it back in and give it another go. So previously I showed you how I was able to go in and look at the diagnostics on the engine while it's running, etc., etc. That's all fine, and I can clear codes and whatnot, but it was just the instrument cluster one that I needed to get access to. So now I've got that. I've got the obviously I've got INPA itself. I've got that configured to use a USB port as COM1, and I've also got the DCan tool as well, which I'll configure once I've got it hooked up onto the machine. So right, so the next step is to put this back together, and I'll just have a look at the condition of the wire damage that I've done there. I mean, obviously all I've done here is touch the soldering iron for 1 second, not even that, and you can see it's melted that off. So what I have to do is I've got to make sure that I cover that to prevent shorts and so on. Okay, let me do that now. Right, so I just put a bit of electrical tape on there to fix up my stuff up. Again, simple oversight. Just pop this out of its cradle before you start doing anything with welding the or soldering the pins. Battery power showing. So mine's an E46, so F3. I'll go to body, then I'll select, where's my mouse, here we are, I'll select instrument cluster. Now beforehand I was just getting a blank screen here, there was nothing coming up, so obviously the soldering pin 7 to pin 8 has worked for this. So now I can, for example, do the standard stuff, so I can let's just say read status, you know, as you would previously. So like with the engine, I'll just get out of there, I can go to say F6, and now I can oil service a reset, so these ones here. So I've already done an oil change beforehand, so mind you, I'm doing an oil change every 10,000 kilometers, so I'm not sure when the previous one was done. I've already reset it via the instrument cluster. You can actually do that with the menus that appear on there. Right, so let's I'm just going to clear the engine adaptations, and well, see how we go. So F3, engine, selecting the M43, then we go to F4, error memory, and F7. Oh, here we are. The erasing option is done. Okay, now I'm just going to go back to the beginning here, and I'm going to start her up. Alright, F3, let's go to engine, again that, F5, read status, and let's go through one of the analog values. So we'll go to F3, and we've got cooling temperature, etc, etc. That's the one there that I need to have a look at. So obviously it's cold, so it's going to be higher than usual when it's warming up. I love this. It just, you know, this real-time monitoring is just fantastic. What I'll do is I'll just escape and go to another F5. Let's go to F4, analog values 2. As I said beforehand, I have to learn what these things are and what are the correct values to look at. And we'll go to F5 again, and this way we'll go to analog values 3. But let's go back to the status. Engine speed 915, 930. Now what I've been getting here is, again to recap, is the RPMs are actually quite low when the engine's warm, so it starts off okay, but then when it's in drive and say I'm at a traffic lights stopped, the revs drop down to, I reckon, around 650 or something like that. It starts to vibrate a little bit, and so I need to find out what that is. I don't think it's going to be just a magic, the silver bullet in just resetting the engine adaptations. I think it's going to be something like the idle control valve or something like that I might need to have a look at. But anyway, it doesn't hurt to, well, I hope it doesn't hurt to reset some of these adaptations. I'll just go back to the beginning. and go to transmission and select my transmission, and we'll read the status again, and F7 for analog values. Right, and you can see down here gearbox temperature currently sitting at 14 degrees, engine temperature 47. And this is the other way I can get to the engine RPM, which is actually probably a better way, because you've got the RPM, you've got the engine temperature and the gearbox temperature. And as I accelerate, it's fantastic. Now, I'd love to hear your feedback and any suggestions, comments, especially if you've got a lot of experience in this. I'm always learning, happy to learn from others. So as always, thanks for watching.